I'm Joel Green, and for well over a decade, I've traveled all over the country, touring some of the biggest factories, seeing amazing landscapes, and viewing some of the most incredible countrysides. But there is nothing like our California. We are in San Diego on the USS Midway. Tom, tell us a little bit about the Midway.
Well, let's see, where do I begin? I'll go where the Midway began. Midway became a museum in 2004, but her history goes back 47 years, back all the way to the end of World War II. She was commissioned 2 weeks after the end of the war in September of 1945, served proudly for 47 years in the U.S. fleet. In fact, up until this past year, she was the longest serving aircraft carrier in the history of the U.S. fleet. In 2004, we got her here as a museum, opened up in June of that year. I was here at the time when we opened, and I haven't looked back. It's been a wonderful experience as one of the volunteers on here.
You know, I see on your tag, it says 5,000 volunteer hours.
Yes.
That's a lot of time.
It is, but it's time well spent. In fact, it's my wife's favorite day of the week, too. I'm out of the house, and it's a win-win situation for both of us.
Were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy. 1960, I was commissioned as an officer. You imagine how desperate the Navy was, but they did. They made me an officer. But they assigned me to an aircraft carrier. The USS Hancock was a World War II aircraft carrier.
So you know what it's like to actually be out on the open sea, and were you ever in battle yourself?
No, thank the Lord, I was not. I was in that lucky generation. Korea was over, Vietnam was just heating up.
But you know what it's like to actually live on one of these.
Oh yes, and it's an interesting experience.
Sure.
You come aboard, you suddenly have over 4,000 friends on board. First thing you have to do is find your way around on these puppies. That's the hard part.
So how many decks are here in the Midway?
Approximately 16 decks, from the top all the way down to below the waterline. And below that there are more decks, but they're not inhabitable. We got the fuel and other things down in those areas of the ship. Okay, here on the flight deck, Joel, we have the aircraft. It's being worked on, or they're just being refueled or getting ready for launch, whatever it is. But we could park the aircraft up here. Also, we could park them down below in what's called the hangar deck down there. And so both places. How we get the aircraft between there and the hangar decks is we have 3 elevators. Very big elevators.
Sure.
Each elevator is capable of taking 2 of these aircraft and moving in about 12 seconds between here and down to the hangar deck. So, but you would keep on a nice, and then if the weather's nice, we have the aircraft parked up here. But up here also would be the airplanes ready to be launched today, say on a mission, a strike or something like that. So they'd be up here ready to go, waiting for their pilots.
Wow, I mean, there's a helicopter in the air, which kind of has that feel like we're out on the open sea and stuff is happening.
It is.
Oh my goodness.
Well, the helicopters are vital to the air operation.
Sure.
Because when they're launching and landing airplanes, there is a helicopter sitting off the side of the ship. When they launch the aircraft, Joel, if he goes in the water, unfortunately, he's right there to pick up the pilot.
When people come out here to visit the Midway, can they tour some of these aircraft?
Yes, we had a couple of aircraft that are open. We have a helicopter back here that's open. Also, there's one there you can actually sit in the cockpit. Great place for your Christmas card picture.
Oh, nice.
Stuff like that.
Nice.
All kinds of, there's certain areas that you actually can get into the aircraft and feel like you're really flying that puppy.
Tom, where are we right now?
All right, we're standing at the very front of what is called the angled deck. The bow of the ship is over here, and that's where they launch the airplanes. When you land an airplane way back here, they come this way, and if they happen to miss catching the arresting gear, the cable, they can go out and go around and try it again. So this angled deck was an idea of the British Royal Navy back in the 1950s. And Midway went through a conversion and they put this angled deck on it. So
Tom, how long is the actual flight deck itself?
it's about 3 football fields in length.
3 football fields.
From the bow to stern, all the way back.
About how many aircraft can take off from the flight deck?
On normal operations, there would be, an aircraft could be launched about every 45 seconds. That's called your shooter. That's an officer. He is the launch officer, nicknamed the shooter. And he assumes that position as soon as he's got everything, he thinks everything, the pilot's ready to go, he's ready to go, he makes sure there's nobody crossing the deck out here, no obstruction, and he puts his hand in the air and gives this signal, and the officer is ready, they got everything ready to go, he goes down on one knee and points. And the guy behind me here is got a button in front of him, he's on the
oh yeah, down there,
there.
green there?
Yeah. And he hits that, and in about 2.5 seconds, this guy's doing 160 miles an hour. The whole structure is called the Island, Joe.
The Island,
Yeah,
huh?
that was nicknamed the Island, and it is the superstructure, and above it you see all these radars. Each radar has a different function. Some is for surface, some is for air, searching the air around us, and also the surface around us. There's even a radar that we use when we pull into port for close in, if we come in at night, for example. They have the radar set up there. Also, you see the captain's bridge over there, the black unit there with the windows on top. Right below it is the Admiral's bridge. The Admiral also has one of his own bridges.
And what about on that side?
That's primary flight control. That's the ship's control tower up there.
Can we go check that out?
You bet we can.
Woohoo! Let's go.
Okay.